Okay, this video is on solving quadratic equations by factoring. Okay, and for the bell work, let's review the process of factoring. So we're going to take three expressions here and we're going to factor them out. Okay, so number one, I don't have anything in common as far as the coefficients here and the constant, so I can't divide everything by some number. However, I also don't have a number in front, so it's just an understood one. So I'm going to take that, I'm going to put that in here because some of you will need to see it. And then I'm going to take 1 times the 15. Again, it's the A value times the C value. I'm going to ignore the minus sign. I just want to see the A times C, and then we'll work through the process here. So 1 times 15, which is 15. Okay, I'm going to factor out 15. I can again create the U, so 1 times 15. 2 does not work. 3 times 5. Okay, 4 does not work, and then 5 would then go looping back around. Okay. Then through the process here, we're going to go through and find a set of factors that if we work my way backwards, subtract, because that's subtraction, to get positive 2. Okay, so I'm going to have to take the large number minus the small number. So if I take 15 minus 1, is that 2? No, of course not. But 5 minus 3 is. So we're going to use this set. Okay, and then you're going to break this apart. So x squared stays x squared. This 2x becomes these two factors. So minus 3x plus 5x. Minus the 15. So you'll notice that the first term drops down. The second term and the middle term needs to split up into whatever set we find here. And then the last term then just drops down. Okay, from here, you group the first two items together, leave the sign in the middle, group the second two. If this sign was in the middle was negative, I would then have to change the last sign here inside the parentheses. Okay, but since it was positive, all is well. Again, I'm going to look inside each set of parentheses and find out what I can divide by to pull it out. So here I have an x in common. So that's going to give me x times what's left. X squared divided by x is just 1x. Negative 3x divided by x is negative 3. Sign in the middle just comes straight down. 5x and 15 can be both divided by 5. So again, that's what comes outside. 5x divided by 5 is just x. Negative 15 divided by 5 is negative 3. Again, notice here that what's inside the parentheses must be identical to each other. Okay, if they are not identical to each other, we've messed up. What's then on the outside here, the greatest common factor, and the greatest common factor here will again just slide together. So that's x plus 5. And then whatever's inside the parentheses will just be transferred down one time, x minus 3. Okay, because again, if I distribute this then to check my work, I have x times x minus 3, which was that, and then plus 5 times x minus 3, which is that. Okay, and then it works its way back up. Next one here. 3x squared minus 16x minus 12. Again, we don't have any number that I can divide 3, 16, and 12 by nicely. So we'll just go straight to A times C. So 3x squared, or just the 3, times the 12, which is 36. You're going to find the factors of 36, again creating the U. So 1 times 36, 2 times 18, 3 times 12, 4 times 9, and 6 times 6. Okay, and again, working my way back. So factors of 36, that subtract to get negative 16. So because we're subtracting to get a negative number, I want to take the small one minus the large one. So 1 minus 36 would not work. 2 minus 18, though, is negative 16. So we're just going to stop there. And again, whatever I found for the factors, that was going to take that middle term and replace it with 2 factors that combine to get that. So this becomes 3x squared. Again, that first term just drops down. This one gets replaced now. Plus 2x minus 18x minus 12. Again, then from here, you're going to group the first 2. Leave the sign in the middle and group the second 2. As stated here, if the sign in the middle is a subtraction, as it is here, you're going to change the sign of the last term as well, okay? Because this was a minus 18, it was a negative 18. But when I took that parentheses and put it there, I chopped this negative off of there. So I took a negative off of that. So because I did that here, I have to also do it there, right? So we're not just changing it for the heck of it, we're changing it because we essentially factored out a negative 1. Okay. We're again then going to go through and look at what we can pull out of each set. So 3x squared plus 2x. I can only divide both of those things by an x, which gives me x times 3x squared divided by x, just 3x. 2x divided by x just takes off that x, so plus 2. The minus sign there comes down. 18x and 12. I find out what I can divide both of those by. If you're struggling with that, again, understand that whatever happens inside the sets of parentheses here, they have to be the same as this. So if I look at what I need to come up with, 3, if I take 18 divided by 3, that should tell me what I can divide by. Okay, 18 divided by 3 is 6, so I'm going to divide by 6. That 6 is going to come out. 18x divided by 6 is 3x. 12 divided by 6 is 2. And again, what's on the outside here, those are just going to slide together. So x minus 6. And then what's repeated here is just going to come down 1 time. Okay. Number 3 here, I gave 2 versions of how to work this out. The first version was that I can rewrite this to be 4x squared, and I can add or subtract, it's up to you, a 0x and then minus 9, because then I have an expression that looks like number 1 and number 2. Or I can go off the fact that this is a difference, because it's subtraction, of squares. So perfect square here and a perfect square there. So that's a difference of squares. So if I use that aspect, I have the square root. Let's do that. The square root of the 4x squared is equal to 2x. And square root of 9 is equal to 3. So when I factor this out, I get the square root of the first plus the square root of the second. And then that's times square root of the first minus the square root of the second. Okay. Moving on to the content. Okay. Solving Quadratic equations by factoring. Again, same techniques as far as factoring goes. We just reviewed all that, so this is just, again, a little bit of overkill. Okay, if a term is equal to 1, as it was in the first problem that we did, then all I have to do is factor out that last constant. Okay, if it's not equal to 1, then you have to take the a value times the c value and then also factor. Okay. Procedure here. Step 1, make sure that you set the equation equal to 0. Okay. I don't care if the 0 is on the left side or the right side. It has to be moved everything over to one side. Okay. And then the other thing you have to make sure you pay attention to is that it's put in standard form. Make sure the x squared term is first. Make sure the x term is then second. And then make sure the constant is then third. Okay. You're going to factor that expression, again, using something similar to what we did for the bell work. And then you're going to use what's called the zero product property and set each of the factors equal to 0 and solve. Step 5 then, again, is just as a recommended step. I would suggest taking your answers, especially if they're nice integer values, and plug them in so that you can check your work. Okay, so lots of examples here. We got 6 of them, in fact. So example 1. Again, you have to set this equal to 0. So my suggestion, again, was to get it to where you have the x squared term as positive. Okay, because the factoring property rules that I talked about really emphasize that the x squared has to be positive. So I'm going to take both of my items here on the right, and I'm going to shift those over. So I'm going to do that by adding x squared, and I'm going to go ahead and subtract 6x at the same time. Okay, so this side, all that cancels and becomes 0. This side I have x squared minus 6x. That's a positive 9, so plus 9. Again, making sure that it's in standard form, the x squared term first, then the x squared, and then the constant. Okay? And again, now I factor. So I basically view this as just the x squared minus 6x plus 9 first, and factor it out. Okay? I don't have a number in front of the x squared, so I can just factor out 9. So if I find the factors of 9, we have 1 and 9. 3 and 3. Again, working my way backwards, what's the factors that add to get negative 6? Okay, so this part confuses people sometimes. How do you add 2 numbers to get a negative number? Okay, think about what it means to add. Add means that I combine the 2 numbers and I maintain that sign. So here, I'm going to actually have negative 3 plus negative 3. So that's the 2 that I'm going to use. So then I rewrite. Again, then paying attention to this left-hand side. Group, maybe. Group, there we go. These 2 have what in common? They have an x in common. So I'm going to divide by x. That x comes out. I have x left because x squared divided by x is x. Negative 3x divided by x is minus 3. The minus sign here comes down. I forgot that we're going to have a minus here. I need to change this sign so that becomes a minus now because it was a plus. I can divide both 3x and 9 by 3. Okay, so that 3 comes out. 3x divided by 3 is just x. Negative 9 divided by 3 is minus 3. And that's still equal to 0. Left hand side, then we can go ahead and group. So we have x, again what's here slides over, minus 3. And this happens to be x minus 3 as well. So we have x minus 3 again, equals 0. And again, I'm using what's called the zero product property, which means that if I have two things multiplied together like I do here, this set times this set, and they equal to 0, then one or both of them has to be 0. So I'm going to take this set and this set, I'm just going to break them apart. X minus 3 equals 0. X minus 3 equals 0. And I'm going to solve them. So here I have plus 3. X equals 3. Here I would do the same thing because it's the same thing. Okay. Again, you can plug these in to make sure that they're correct. You would just plug in to the original before you moved anything around, and then work it out. So if I have negative x squared plus 6x, I would take the negative times 3 squared. So that becomes negative 9 plus 6 times 3, which is 18. And so negative 9 plus 18 is positive 9. So 9 equals 9, which is true. So that tells me that 3 is the correct answer. Okay. Number 2. Again, I'm going to shift everything to one side. The 6x squared here is positive, so I'm going to shift the 12 over. I'm going to add 12. I'm going to add 12. Notice I'm not putting these unlike terms directly below on the side that I'm moving to. Anything that is not a like term. Okay, so far I've not had any like terms, so I don't do the addition underneath. So that's why this x squared and 6x over here were off to the left. And that's why this 12 here is off to the right of that 17x, because I want it in standard form. So 6x squared minus 17x plus 12 equals 0. Again, then I'm going to look at the a value times the c value. So I have 6 times that 12. Which gives me 72. And then I'm going to list all the factors of 72. 1 times 72. 2 times 36. 3 times 24. 4 times 18. 6 times 12. And 8 times 9. Again, then working my way backwards here, I want to find the set that adds to get negative 17. Again, similar to what we had here, I need then two numbers that are both negative to become that 17. Okay, but they add to get 17, which gives me negative 8 and negative 9. Okay, so then again, factoring it out, minus 8x now, minus 9x, plus the 12. Again, now grouping the first two, leave the sign in the middle, group the second two. This time let's remember to change the sign first. So because this is a minus, I'm going to change this sign. And I'm going to look inside each set of parentheses and then find out what I can divide each term by. So 6x squared minus 8x. I can divide both of those at most by 2x. So 2x, I'm going to put that up a little more. 2x comes outside. If I take 6 divided by 2, I get 3 left. X squared divided by x is just an x. Negative 8 divided by 2 is negative 4. X and X would then cancel. Looking at that next set, I can divide 9 and 12 by 3. So this sign again comes down. What I divided by comes on the outside. 9x divided by 3 is 3x. Negative 12 divided by 3 is negative 4. Again, that's equal to 0. Again, what's here on the outside of the parentheses, I'm going to take those and just slide them together. So it becomes 2x minus 3. And then this writes down one time. 3x minus 4 equals 0. And then again, applying this zero product rule, I'm going to take each set of parentheses and we'll break it apart. So I have 2x minus 3 equals 0. And then I have the 3x minus 4 equals 0. And then solve each one individually. So add 3 here. So 2x equals 3. Divide both sides by 2. X equals 3/2 would be my preferred answer. Here though, if you want to put 1.5, that's also okay. On the second one then, we're going to add 4 to both sides. So 3x equals 4. I'm going to divide both sides by 3. Here I cannot simplify. This becomes 4/3. Again, I would not write this as a decimal because it becomes 1.3 repeating. And I don't want to lose any information, so leave it as 4/3. Okay, 2 more here. Okay, number 3. Again, notice that the x squared is negative, so I want to move that to the other side of the equation. And then again, reordering things here, so I'm going to add x squared. I'm going to subtract the 56. So again, on the other side of the parenthesis or the equal sign, I'm going to add x squared, and I'm going to subtract 56. That leaves me 0 equals x squared minus 10x minus 56. Again, noticing that there's no number in front of the x squared, there's no coefficient, it's a 1. So I can just take whatever's here and factor it. So 56 is 1 times 56, 2 times 28. 3 does not go into 56. 4, however, does. Not 56 times, though. 4 and 14. 5 does not go into it. 6 does not go into it. But 7 times 8 is 56. Again, then looking at the signs, working our way backwards, these have to subtract to get negative 10. In order to subtract to get negative 10, I need to take the larger number away from the smaller number. So 1 minus 56, is that negative 10? No. 2 minus 28? No. 4 minus 14? Yes. So then again, I'm going to rewrite this using these two. 0 equals x squared plus 4x minus 14x minus 56. Again, once I've separated that middle term into the two terms that combine to become that, I need do group, leave the sign in the middle, group. Again, then looking at what they have in common, x squared and 4x, I can divide both of them by x. So I have 0 equals x times x squared divided by x is just x. 4x divided by x is 4. Minus sign comes down. I did it again. Once I have a minus in the middle, I have to change this sign. So again, this now becomes a plus. Against the opposite sign. 14 and 56 I can divide by something to make this 14 become a 1. So obviously it has to be 14. So minus 14 times 14x divided by 14 is just x. 56 divided by 14 is 4. Again, what's on the outside of those parentheses, this slides together and becomes one set of factors. So 0 equals x minus 14 times the x plus 4. And again, now at this point, I'm going to take both of my terms, my sets of expressions, and I'm going to set those equal to 0 and solve. So x minus 14 equals 0. X plus 4 equals 0. I'll solve the left-hand side one first. Add 14 to both sides. X equals 14 is one of my answers. Subtract 4 on both sides here. X equals negative 4 is my second answer. Again, you can take those answers, you can go back to the beginning and plug them in for the x's and make sure that both sides are equal to each other. Okay. Number 4, I'm going to add this 2 to both sides because this is positive. So I'm going to leave it positive. Again, you're going to see me squeeze it in there because none of these are like terms. That's now equal to 0. I'm going to take that A term times that C term, so I have 2 times 2, which is 4. Factors of 4 are 1 times 4 and 2 times 2. Again, working my way backwards, I want the set then that adds to get 5. And hopefully that's pretty clear that 1 plus 4 equals 5. So now I rewrite 2x squared plus 1x plus 4x plus 2 equals 0. Group the first 2, group the second 2, leaving the sign in the middle. So first 2, leave alone. Last 2. What do they have in common? I can divide both of these by just an x, which gives me x times 2x plus 1. Plus sign comes down. 4x and 2, I can divide both of those by 2, which means the 2 comes out. 4x divided by 2 is 2x. 2 divided by 2 is 1. Okay. Again, what's on the outside of the parentheses there would just slide together. So I have parentheses x plus 2. And then in the other set of parentheses here, we have the 2x plus 1. And again, once I have that expression then factored, I'm going to do what I did here and apply this zero product property. I'm going to do an arrow here, an arrow there. That means x plus 2 is 0, or 2x plus 1 equals 0. And again, solving each one of those individually, I can subtract 2 on both sides here, x is going to equal negative 2. And over here, I'm going to subtract 1 first. And then divide by 2 now. So x equals negative 1/2. Again, something like negative 1/2, if you want to write that as a decimal, because it's a nice decimal, negative 0.5 would be okay. However, make sure that I can see your point. Okay, some of you just do a little quick smack of the pencil tip against the paper, and that doesn't always leave a dot. So make sure that you have a dot. Okay? Two more examples. You'll notice now on number 5 that we don't have things in order. Okay, so I'm going to do a couple things to get that back in order. It's also negative on the x squared. So again, I want that to be positive. So I'm going to shift these two over. So I'm going to subtract x, and I'm going to add x squared. So again, I'm going to do that on this side. Add x squared, and I'm going to subtract x. I'm going to flip the order there, which leaves me 0 on the left side here. And then x squared minus x minus 30, because that's a negative 30. Okay, again, we have a situation where we have a 1 in front. So I'm going to take that constant, the 30. I'm going to factor it out. 1 times 30. 2 times 15. 3 times 10. And 5 times 6. Again, then I'm looking for the set of factors now that subtract to get negative 1. Again, we can put a 1 here if we need to. So the set that subtracts, again, I'm going to have to take a small number minus a large number to get a negative. So 1 minus 30 doesn't work. 2 minus 15 doesn't work. 3 minus 10 doesn't work. But 5 minus 6 does equal negative 1. So now I'm going to separate them. 0 equals x squared plus 5x minus 6x minus 30. And then I'm going to group them. Again, leaving the sign in the middle. Okay. Here, let's go ahead and hit this before I forget again. Since the sign in the middle is a minus, I need to change this sign as well, so this becomes now plus. Looking at each set individually, these I have an x in common. So that gives me 0 equals x times x squared divided by x again is x. 5x divided by x is just 5, so plus 5. Sign in the middle comes down. 6x and 30, I can divide both of those nicely by 6, and it gives me a 1 for this. I'm going to write x instead of 6 there. Let's write 6. The 6 comes out. 6x divided by 6 is just x. 30 divided by 6 is 5. Which then factored out, 0 equals x minus 6, and then x plus 5. Again, then applying the zero product property, these two sets of factors will get set equal to 0. And then I'll solve each one of them individually. So plus 6, x equals 6. Minus 5, x equals negative 5. Okay, for the last example then, again, paying attention to the fact that x squared is positive on the left, So I'm going to bring everything over it to it. I'm going to add 8x. I'm going to add 16. A little hard to see in that one, sorry. X squared plus 8x plus 16 equals 0. Again, I don't have a number in front of the x squared, so I'm just going to take the factors of that constant. So 16, 1 times 16, 2 times 8, 4 times 4. I'm going to find the set of factors here that add, because this is addition, to get positive 8, positive 4, and positive 4. So again, I'm going to split up that middle term to be now plus 4x, plus 4x, plus 16 equals 0. I'm going to group, leave the sign in the middle, group the last two. See what these have in common. They have an x in common. So that gives me x times x plus 4. This sign comes down. 4x and 16 have a 4 in common. I can divide both by 4. Again, we're looking for that largest factor, or the greatest common factor. The 4 comes out. We got x plus 4 left. Again, then what's on the outsides here just slides together, and then what's left there would be represented one time. Okay. You'll notice this one now, we have the same expression on both. So x plus 4 equals 0, and x plus 4 equals 0. Subtract 4 on both sides. Same thing over here, and hopefully your same answer, because it's the same expression. Okay, so that is all for solving by factoring. Again, this may be a longer process than some of us want to take. Okay, so if you would recommend learning just one process, because by all means, some of you are not going to be math students, and that's okay. You can go on to the video that is solving quadratic equations by the quadratic formula, and just use that. Okay. If there's any questions, comments, or concerns, again, by all means, please feel free to reach out to me.